that we will be following. Let's look at the stories that are headlining this morning, and little wonder that it is, of course, a lot on the Supreme Court and what can be expected to play out there in the cases that have been taken there, the petitions against the presidential election results that were declared by the IEBC chair, Wafula Chebukati. And in studio, just to take us through the papers, to help me go through the papers, is my senior in the profession, Eric Oduor, the Kenya Union of Journalists Secretary General, and I'll call him, for purposes of the discussion today, my amicus curiae, friend of the court, because he is interested in the happenings and the developments from the Supreme Court. But nonetheless, that's on a light note. Karibu, and it's been a while.
Thank you so much, Mark. Good morning.
Yes.
How are you?
Good morning. Good morning. Tunaamka bado, lakini ni sawa. I'll be getting a coffee in the next few. But yes, let's start home, and we start with the Daily Nation here, and the smoking gun in Raila's petition. And this just outlines the headlining story here, outlines some of the cases that they are basing their story on, or at least their petition on. And I don't know why this is giving me a hard time just to zoom in. But yes, let's just try. Yes, here we go. And at a glance, again, yes, the issue of hacking. This has been brought up, and our senior again in the profession, that is John Githongo, is said to have done, investigation and has some details about a possible hacking of the IEBC system. And here, at a glance, you see one of the issues, an affidavit sworn in the case that has been put forward. Did 56 hackers gain access to IEBC service to alter results declaration forms from polling stations before streaming fake figures to the public portal? Now, Eric, this has gotten a lot of attention in terms of the claims that have been brought up in this. First of all, as we report this, it's not about criticizing whether it's the veracity of the petitions or the affidavits, but first of all, just to put on our journalistic heads on this, it is what has been put before the Supreme Court. So as we advise moving forward, the discussion on this, especially how it's put out to the public, it is not our place to look at the pros and cons of this.
Exactly. For us, we are just looking at the evidence that has been adduced in court. And also remember, during the tallying process at the Bomas of Kenya, the CEO of IEBC, Hussein Marjan, came out and demystified this issue of hacking. And he said that there were attempts, but the people who wanted to gain access to IEBC system did not succeed. So definitely these are information that we will be getting from what has been provided.
Eric, let me hold you on that. It seems someone has hacked your microphone, because presidential election, and did the commission conceal 140,000 votes that could have changed the outcome of the vote? Another issue is vote inflation, where William Ruto's votes topped up illegally with 217,631 votes in a final declaration to enable him avoid a runoff election. If so, under whose orders? And yes, the issue of the missing constituencies. Did IEBC announce presidential elections results without factoring in those from 27 constituencies? If so, was it in order? Hiding evidence, as well as the verification and tallying. So yes, I believe we are in order now, Eric, and this issue, much as it's picked up a lot of reactions, you were just explaining how the CEO Hussein Marjan explained the place of the IEBC, the place of media, because there's a lot of information that was coming in.
Exactly. Now what is going to happen is that we're going to look at the information and evidence and the documents that are going to be provided in court, for us now actually to know the truth, and also what the court will say in terms of the information that will be provided in court.
Okay.
Yes.
So we're going to have this for the next, make it 2 weeks.
Exactly.
So it's basically, are we going to be conveyor belts?
I don't,
because there's also a challenge of breaking it down.
Of course, we have to break it down and help the people to understand what is going on in court until the 5th of September, actually the day we expect the Supreme Court actually to give the judgment on the matter. Right.
But there's also the issue there that a few days before the issue of the Supreme Court developed, and there was a petition, there was a ruling that lawyers can actually weigh in on the issue. Do you think this is a good thing for us, especially as we seek interpretation of the issues that are being broken down?
Yeah, you know, of course, we cannot gag people from speaking, people from talking, because we've got freedom of expression, and, you know, this is a very weighty matter, and therefore the members of the public will be waiting to see and to hear what is going on, and therefore that's why it's important for lawyers actually to break it down, so that members of the public can actually follow what is going on and also understand the issues being canvassed in court.
Speaking of understanding issues that are being canvassed in court, there are 3 petitioners who are seeking an interpretation. Apex Court can't declare winner petitioners argue, and these are 3 in number, and they say, in their view, 3 Kenyans have rushed to the High Court seeking to nullify a section of the law that allows the Supreme Court to declare the winner of presidential election after a recount of the votes cast, which is something that the leader of Azimio seeks in his petition, that once a recount is done, he's found to be the winner, they should declare him.
Of course, this is something that is still going to play out in court, and we're going to see what's going to play out between the High Court and the Supreme Court, because these are different courts that are going to deal with these issues differently. So, of course, the High Court will listen to this, and we also have to wait for the verdict from the High Court, whether they're going to nullify that section of the Election Act, or they're going to declare it unconstitutional, or they're not going to do so. So these are some of the things that we'll want to see how they're going to play out, and how the Supreme Court will respond to that.
So I just want us to get to the last page here. I'm trying to go quickly to it, the last page of the Daily Nation, because this is an issue that will affect many parents. And I believe you're a parent. I don't know if your child is headed to the junior high school, but this is a concern about the selection and the places that are available for students to head into the high school, junior high school positions. And just to get to the last page here of the Daily Nation, I don't want to go to the I don't want to refer to the last. Just hand me this one. It just doesn't seem to be this page. This is quite embarrassing. But here is this is the issue. Scramble for limited junior high place. Next year's double intake is expected to severely stretch school resources. The more than 1.28 million learners who will join junior secondary school in January next year will compete for limited spaces in top schools. Now, the Education Ministry and the Cabinet Secretary, to be precise, had promised to give direction on how parents should be going about the selection of the junior secondary school positions, but it's not clear to the parents.
Exactly, it's going to be a crisis. Actually, this was brought to my attention yesterday, because I think there are a number of schools that have been listed that have got those spaces for junior secondary schools. And like you say, and like the story actually has pointed out, that the spaces are limited. And I think it's going to be very difficult for parents, because you need to go and scramble for the available spaces. So I think it's going to be a crisis, because not all schools actually have been listed to have those spaces for junior secondary school. So it's another crisis actually that is unfolding, and we will want to see that what the government will do to ensure that students actually are able to access all the spaces that are available. And if the spaces are not available, what will happen? Will they create or urge schools or promote schools actually to provide spaces for junior secondary schools? Needless
to say, the disruption of the calendar that has been because of the elections, we're seeing some areas that will be having the elections on Monday, that especially the day schools, the learning will be disrupted. And depending on how things go at the Supreme Court, parents should be able at the back of their minds to, you know, prepare for anything.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, we've already seen a disrupted school calendar all the way from when we had cases of COVID. And right now, parents and schools have been trying to adjust so that by January, at least we go back to the normal school calendar. But also with the now election cycle, we are likely to see again another disruption. So it's going to be difficult between now and December. In the event that we have a rerun, of course, which is supposed to take place 60 days after the ruling. So again, that is also likely to affect the school calendar. So parents and I think schools and even teachers, of course, they have to adjust and just look at how things are going to unfold and see how to go back to the normal school calendar, probably early next year.
Yes, and let's see the Business Daily, what business is going on, because biashara inaendelea and people really do want to get back into business and, you know, the rhythm of life, basically, whether it's schooling, business, biashara, whatever it is, get back to it and let's move on. But the Supreme Court proceedings definitely will keep things on hold or limbo. And I hope as we go through the Business Daily, my fingerprints will cooperate, because they did pick it at the Kim's Kids. There was no problem. But anyway, UK protests a Kenya ban on second-hand buses. Find out what that is about. I want to get into something else that is related somewhat to the elections. And yes, on this page, you will see what you need to know about Kenya's election battle in the Supreme Court. Sam Kiplagat just outlined some of the common questions that are being asked here on the Business Daily. And something else, that as the politics continues, there's an issue going on in the country, Eric. Livestock prices hit 5,000 shillings on famine. Now, this hasn't really gotten the attention, but we have reported on it. And there is a famine, there is drought, especially in the northern part, and food insecurity has become an issue.
Yeah, yes, Mark, I think that is a story that is timely, because I think we've been having these stories from last year. Yes. I think there was even an alert that had been issued by World Food Program that the Horn of Africa actually are going to experience a famine and a drought, and I think that is what is manifesting itself, because we've had prolonged drought in these areas. And you know, these areas, people in these areas actually, they rely most on livestock. So that means that they have now to dispose of these livestock for them to survive. Otherwise, they are going to suffer so many losses. So I think that's what is going on in those particular areas. Right.
Yes. Get to see more details on that from Stanley Ngodo, who did that story. Let's look at Taifa Leo. And this is an issue, Uhuru kuzidi kukaa Ikulu. Now, there's been questions about the appointments that have been made last week in terms of, is it in his place as a temporary incumbent president to make these appointments? Is it legally sound? However, there is another question as to how longer his term might be extended, given what might happen at the Supreme Court.
I think the question about the appointment that President Uhuru Kenyatta made last year, I think it's something that was blown out of proportion, because looking at that Gazette notice, people say that this is an appointment that had been done earlier, before August 9th, and therefore it's only that the Gazette notice delayed to come out.
Okay.
And of course, right now, given that Uhuru term actually is coming to an end, and already we have a president-elect in place, so obviously he cannot exercise all the powers. But again, there is no vacuum. There's no leadership vacuum. We still have a president in place until the day Uhuru Kenyatta will hand over to the next president. Immediately, that the next president will lift the Bible and say that, so help me God. That is when the powers of President Uhuru Kenyatta will come to an end.
We've seen the timelines of the Supreme Court proceedings and what is expected, but there's also the timeline and extension of term of office for him, possibly, because, for instance, if one of the scenarios that is expected and it is decided at the Supreme Court that we will go back to the ballot for the presidential election, and already one of the petitioners, or many of the petitioners actually, do not have faith in the IEBC as it is constituted, and we've seen the divisions in it. So will there then again be a need to reconstitute the IEBC? And within that, as you say, we still have a president. There's no vacuum.
But of course, even if you were to reconstitute IEBC, remember Chebukati, Professor Gulie and Molu, the other two commissioners, their term is coming to an end around January.
Right.
So I will be questioned that by December, will they still be holding office, or they should be going on terminal leave, depending on their terms of contracts, what the contracts actually say, when are they supposed to be leaving office. Again, it's going to be a very interesting scenario here, whereby we will be expecting Chebukati to leaving IBC by January. But again, if you were to do elections, assuming the verdict will come out on September 5th. So we start counting 60 days from September 5th. We'll go all the way around
November 5th.
November 5th there. Again, will Chebukati still be in office? But again, if we want to remove Chebukati and bring in a chairman or a new leader there, then again, what is the process? So, so we've got a lot of issues that actually between now and 5th, that people will be conversing to see what is the scenario, how will it play out in the event that there is a rerun, or if there is no rerun, then what next?
And I'm sure that will be explained a bit more in this story. Uhuru kuzidi kukaa Ikulu Taifa Leo header. And there's some context given in terms of the scenarios and possibilities of the leadership that is, imminent in Kenya, or at least whatever leadership will take over if it is President-elect William Ruto. Now, break it down for us in terms of what the East African is trying to, draw to attention for the region.
Basically, the East Africans and the readers of the East African, they wanted to know who is William Ruto. And actually, that is what we are trying to unmask, that who is this man, William Ruto? What does he stand for? Because again, the East African look at the readers and the people who read East Africa, they want to know what is he bringing on the table as a leader at the regional level, not at Kenya, but at the regional level, because at the regional level there are a lot of issues that are going on. We have EAC, we have conflicts in the region, we have business deals, we have infrastructure projects that cut across the East Africa. So people want to know that will he be able to fit into the shoes of his predecessors, because we had Mwai Kibaki, we now have Uhuru Kenyatta, who actually has played a lot of diplomatic roles in the country with the conflict in Ethiopia. You see, he went there to try to see how Ethiopia and the issues in Tigray, Ethiopia could handle them. We have problems in Somalia. We have problem right now in DRC, whereby some soldiers have been deployed there. So those are some kind of the things that people are looking at. Will William Ruto also be able to play such roles? And if we would play them, what do we expect from him?
Would you say the messages that came in right after he was declared president-elect from some of the leaders within the region is a form of embracing a leadership, a William Ruto leadership? We heard it from Uganda, no less. Would you say this is, it hasn't been, all through, embraced, but would you say this is a form of saying, accepting, we are going to work with you?
Of course, that is like a club in the region. It's a club, and therefore when there is a new member of the club, of course, you have to reach out and try to be seen to be embracing his leadership. Even if you don't like him, Kenyans already elected him, and therefore you have to embrace him. So that's what we saw from leaders actually who send congratulatory messages to William Ruto.
Right. And diplomatically, so even beyond just the region and the continent, there's a lot of interest in who is taking over.
Of course, in diplomacy, once a leader has been elected by a country, what you need to do is to embrace him. You can't tell people that, we don't like you, are president-elect. You have to embrace him and find ways of working with him. And that's why you've seen other diplomats actually have already started reaching out to him and having meetings with him, because again, it's all about interest, because those diplomats here are to represent the interests of their countries, and therefore they have to start lobbying and engaging to see how the interest of their countries can be protected by the new leader who is coming in.
And I'm sure you've, skimmed through the Standard as well, and no surprises there, as well as a headlining focus is the issues that have been raised by one of the main petitioners inside Raila's evidence, and they break it down in terms of the issues that have been raised, the numbers that have been put there, and even from questioning the figures and the authenticity of Forms 34A to claiming that President-elect William Ruto failed to attain the 50% plus one threshold. Azimio leader Raila Odinga's petition seeks to overturn the results or have the election called in his favor, and they comb through the evidence and bring you insightful details. That's in the Standard. And there's the question as well, as people are looking at the issues that have been raised in the petitions. At what point was there discontent in terms of the process? Because it seems to be inconsistent. Even those the dissenting commissioners did say that, we've had a good process, we have improved in many aspects, but at the tail end, that's where the issue came up.
Yeah, of course, if you look at the evidence that was produced in court, actually they were carried in a truck. So you can imagine.
Truckload of evidence.
Exactly. So you can imagine. And that's actually what journalists right now are doing, just to go through, comb through and find out and bring what in this were included in the documents that were filed in court.
Yes.
And of course, if you look at the petition and what the media is bringing out, there are a number of issues. And Raila is not just looking at the process, he's looking at the process and also looking at the quality of the process. Also that if the process was followed, but the documents here, that Form 34A were they authentic? Were they the ones that were declared, containing results that were declared at the polling station? Remember, what was going on was that the results that were declared at the polling station and contained in Form 34A are final. So those are the things that right now they are trying to corroborate with the information that's already available right now. If indeed the process was followed, yes, you followed the process, but were you announcing the actual results as they were declared at the polling station? So I think those are the issues that Raila Odinga is looking at.
All right, and again, as well, the Star, why Chebukati numbers don't add up according to Raila. But there's something interesting here and a bit different from the other headlining stories. This developed within the course of yesterday. Kibwana ditches Azimio, joins Kenya Kwanza. Outgoing Makueni Governor Kivutha Kibwana yesterday became the latest prominent figure in Azimio la Umoja to defect to President-elect William Ruto's Kenya Kwanza alliance. Kibwana was received by Ruto at the Deputy President's Karen residence in Nairobi last month. Kibwana admitted there have been some small political differences among Azimio leaders from Ukambani. Now, the question here has been, is it really, going to support the Kenya Kwanza team in the Supreme Court case legally because he has a legal background and a strong one at that? Or is it more of disgruntlement because of the differences he had with one of the big names within Azimio, that is Kalonzo Musyoka?
Of course, Kibwana is just looking for his survival, having lost senatorial election in Makueni. And also looking at the pecking order in Azimio, we have already Kalonzo Musyoka there, we have Charity Ngilu there. So he also looking at the pecking order there. Of course, he wouldn't be a priority. If there's anything to be given to Kambani, he wouldn't be a priority. Number one will be Kalonzo Musyoka, followed by Charity Ngilu. So what he's trying to look for is survival, because again, right now, he's not holding any political position. So it's just political survival. That's why he maybe found that in Kenya Kwanza, there could be space for him, because in Azimio, it looks like there's no space for him, having lost in the elections.
Right, and there's expected to be more defections and crossing from one side to the other, depending on how even the Supreme Court decision goes. And there was that aspect of whether it is legal or illegal that, the Kenya Kwanza side is receiving people from the other side, the Azimio la Umoja coalition side. But it's neither here nor there. In politics, there's no permanent enemies.
Right now, I think the stakes are not as high because given that these people are not going for elections. You remember that time there are some people who are going for elections, and therefore you needed to remain in a coalition. Otherwise, you could face some legal challenges. But right now, Kibwana is not going to vie for any political position right now. So what he can do is, he can even say that I've left my party and therefore I'm joining another party. So right now, stakes are not as high as they were when we were approaching elections. So right now, we are, of course, you've even seen a number of movements. You've seen like United Democratic Movement, UDM, actually signed a post-election a deal with Kenya Kwanza. So those are things that we are going to see. Because again, here in Kenya, sometimes we sign these MOUs and agreements, but respecting them become a different thing, especially when the stakes are not high right now.
I'm about to, have in your place the newsmaker of the day, and that is ELOG's Peter Alingo, and he's a technical advisor there. They've been, the Observer Mission locally, the various civil organizations, civil society organizations that have been watching the election process and have a lot to say about this. You've been watching it, the process, and I can't let you go as the Kenya Union of Journalists Secretary General to give your diagnosis, or at least your overview of how it went out, especially in the eyes and the interest of journalists and their safety.
I think journalists did a good job because you remember prior to the elections we had a number of discussions and a number of MOUs signed between us and IEBC and other stakeholders in elections, and all these were meant to make environment free and safe for journalists to operate in. Of course, we have got a few cases where journalists were barred and stopped from accessing some polling stations and tallying centers. But those are the issues that maybe later on, once these issues are settled, we will sit down and release a report and also engage IEBC again, because I think there's some areas of MOUs that we believe that were violated, especially the areas where journalists were stopped or barred from accessing polling stations, because we had agreed that journalists should not be stopped or harassed during this election process. Electoral officials were actually advised by IEBC that they should facilitate journalists to access information, especially Form 34A, so that the media can actually also have the results alongside the results that IEBC will have and agents will have. So I believe that we tried this time around. I think we have not disappointed as the media. Of course, people will say that we did not produce our results, but there were technical challenges because it's a huge task. Imagine combing through and putting together results from 46,000 plus polling stations. And if you look at the kind of money that the government invests in IEBC, because of the tasks that actually they carry out during elections. So I believe that if some areas we didn't do is the learning process, and as elections come, we will be able to adjust. Maybe in future, we should be able to call elections.
Right. Yeah. And we're in the place of another Supreme Court case. And with retrospect to what happened last time, 2017, what's your advice to colleagues?
I think what we have to do is we have to remain as professionals, because actually that is what we told journalists, that even as we go through this process, we have to remain as professionals. Let us be differentiated from the bloggers and people who are peddling rumors and lies on social media. People rely on us, members of public, trust us, and let us work as professionals so that we can retain the trust that members of the public have in journalists and the media as a whole.
All right. Bwana Eric Oduor, the Kenya Union of Journalists Secretary General, thank you for your time and your thoughts. We'll have you back on here again for the press review. Hopefully my fingers will be working then with this. Look, it's working now. It's working. What are the chances? But yes, thank you for your time, and I'll make way for, you will make way for Peter Alingo as you go for the news of the day. Of course, you're still in the newsroom and you're going to work on the focus points for the East African and other publications within the Nation Media Group. Thank you so much for your time. And we will be switching focus and switching gears to the newsmaker of the day, and that is ELOGS, the Election Observation Group's technical advisor, Peter Alingo. He's in studio, and we will be opening the lines to you as well to put your questions forward to him as you follow the conversation. So stay with AM Live.